What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Black, your internet relationship and breakup coach. Today's topic, how to actually make your ex find you irresistible when you're doing no contact. 3 questions you must ask to get your ex back. Now let me say this. I'm making this video because I know this works for sure. And I don't say that lightly. When you watch the video, you'll understand if you can execute this properly, I promise you it'll work. Now let me say this. When I make videos, okay, there's a mindset piece. And I do truly believe that's the most important part. Having a mindset and understanding that you deserve the very best. Not chasing, not begging. These things are mindset, and it comes from a place of a high self-esteem, okay? I believe that's about 80% of the challenge of no contact, whether you want to move on or whether you want to get your ex back, but especially if you want to get your ex back. The second piece, which is more the tactical things, the things to say, the things to do that raise attraction, which absolutely work. They do work. I think those are about 20%. So when I make videos, I do make a lot of videos that have more to do with the mindset, but sometimes, and I think people enjoy these more, people want the tactics, and the tactics work. They really do. But I want you to understand the mindset first, because long term, keeping your ex, keeping the relationship is not going to come from tactics or things you say. It's really not. It's going to come from who you are. Now that being said, if you can do these and you ask these questions when you're doing no contact, you will get your ex back, guaranteed. All right, I'm that confident in this. And I'm going to give you two bonus tips of things, not only questions to ask, but you should be coming from this place. All right, so these are questions / mindset to implement when you are communicating with your ex. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So if you have been doing no contact and you are starting to see the signs, okay? Your ex is starting to watch your stories. Maybe they're liking your posts, right? First of all, you should be ignoring all of these little nuanced things that aren't like a definitive reach out. Liking your post doesn't count. And if you've watched, you know, a lot of the other content I've made, you've heard that before. So all of that doesn't count. But now you're starting to get more definitive. Maybe you get the one random text message, the hello, the how are you doing? Perfect. Now this is how we take this forward. The first thing you have to understand and appreciate, if you want to fix things with your ex, if you want to get back into a relationship, that is not your goal. I need you to understand and appreciate this. Your new mindset should be your goal on the journey to getting back together is to have high quality interactions. That's your goal. If you shift that perspective, that should inform the kinds of questions you ask and the types of things that you say. So the first question, whenever you're interacting with your ex, they sent that first message after no contact, hey, how are you? Your first question as you interact is, how does this align with my primary goal? Which, remember, the primary goal is spending time together. So they say, hey, how are you? You say, hey, I'm doing good. And you have 1 or 2 interactions. Now, I've talked about the masculine versus the feminine. But as, for example, for the guys, if your goal is high quality interactions or quality time together, you're asking within 2, 3, maximum 5 messages, when are you free to get together? Remember, the goal is spending time together. It's not getting back into a relationship. Even if that's what you want, I promise you, the relationship will take care of itself, guaranteed. So you should always be asking yourself when you're in any interaction with your ex, How does this align with my central purpose, which is spending time together? If you're not asking the questions about setting up a face-to-face interaction, you're wasting an interaction. Because I promise you, your ex is not texting you if no contact is not working on them. I promise you. They're texting you because they are having doubts. They are unsure, right? They're second guessing their choice, and they're looking for confirmation that they made the right decision. Let me explain to you what that means. And I've talked about this in different videos, but I need you to understand why you have to change your goal. When someone breaks up with you, I promise they've thought about it for some time. Most times. They've thought about it. They've weighed out the pros and the cons in their mind. And regardless of how amazing you believe the connection was, the truth is they have internal doubts about the relationship. And so when they finally mustered up the courage to leave, yes, they still have doubts. They're not 100% certain, but they're more certain than not, right? They're not 100% certain, but they're more certain than not. It was a tough decision, I promise you. And so you start doing no contact, which is good. So you start raising attraction. They start to second guess, and they send you a message. What I need you to understand is that even though they're having doubts, right, they still in this moment want to be broken up. That's the truth. And this is why when you say things that are like, you know, are you ready to get back together? Can we work on this? Have you changed your mind? It's too much pressure. Remember, in their mind, they just made a decision that even though they're not sure about it, they are more sure than not. So if you apply too much pressure, essentially, it's almost like you're giving them a yes or a no. And remember, they just made the choice to leave. So whatever pros and cons that they have in their mind, if you apply too much pressure and mentally they get to that yes or no, they're going to go with the choice that they just made 2 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. And even if it's been 2 months, they've been second guessing, but their most recent interactions with you, right? Their most recent interactions with you, if you've been doing no contact, is still where they made the decision to leave the relationship. So I promise you, the goal must never be getting back together, even if that's what you want. It's high quality interactions, just a face-to-face date, hang out, nothing too serious. Okay, and let me also add this. This is a very important thing. When it comes to these hangouts or spending time together, you are the star, not the activity. You are the star, not the activity. Let me explain to you what that means. It is way better if you're trying to hang out with your ex. Men especially, the ladies, as long as he's choosing the dates, then it's fine, right? He should be setting the dates. He should be planning to hang out. And as long as he's not asking you to just come over his place, right, then you're fine. You let him lead that aspect of things. But that's more into the masculine and the feminine. I don't want to spend too much time on that. But the point is, you are the star, not the activity. And this goes also especially for the men, meaning the more investment you put into planning the dates, this is only when you got dumped, okay? She dumped you, she left. The more investment you put into the experience, meaning the quality of the experience, the more you are telegraphing or you're telling her, this is so important to me that I needed to take you on a date for a helicopter ride. And even though that sounds like fun, that is too much pressure, because in her mind, you wouldn't be investing this amount of money and resources if you weren't trying to lock her down. Remember, this is about quality time, not necessarily the quality of the experience. That stuff will take care of itself down the line, because the more you invest, I promise you, into high quality experience, what you're telling her, what you're telling your partner, especially for the guys, because you're the one planning the dates, is that This means so much to me. And while that's a good thing in theory, that means I want a relationship so much that I'm trying to pressure you into a commitment by whining you, dining you, buying you this, buying you that. And that doesn't work because she just made a decision to run away from the relationship. So the higher the pressure, the more scared she's going to get. Even if she does these things with you, it's still not going to raise attraction because her defenses are up. Anything that says relationship is pressure. Anything that's high investment in turn says relationship, which is pressure. You following me? So you're better off, for the guys, if you're planning a date, it's like, hey, you know, why don't we cook dinner? Why don't we grab a drink? A very casual, non-threatening. This is only for the guys. For the ladies, if he dumped you, you want him investing a lot. Okay. So these are the differences where it's, you know, masculine versus feminine. Very important. Okay. The second, which kind of segues into what I was just alluding to. Whatever you do, you must not be relationship focused. I promise you, like I said, that will take care of itself when your ex is ready. And this doesn't mean you're giving your ex power. It just means you're not trying to make them feel like you're trying to lock them down. Because the moment they get that impression, remember, especially in the beginning, right after no contact, your ex's defenses are up. They're looking for any sign that you're trying to lock them down, and they're going to run. So anything that says relationship is too much too soon. You'll take care of that after a few days. When there's more investment from both parties, then we can start talking about the relationship stuff. So a simple way to think about this, ask yourself this question. If whatever you're doing would be inappropriate on a first date, then don't do it. Talking about marriage, talking about moving back in together, talking about getting back together. It's the same thing as going on a first date and saying, let's get into a relationship tomorrow. In the beginning stages, your ex's defenses are up, so you must not be relationship focused in the questions you ask, the types of dates that you plan, the types of topics that you're bringing up, anything that telegraphs how serious this is, how important this is, and you know how much you care. I promise you these things don't raise attraction. They just scare your ex off. You will get into these topics at some point, but the focus now is high quality interactions, connecting, not relationship. Remember, they just ran from the relationship. So I promise you, initially, even if they're having doubts, what they know for sure is that they don't want to be in a relationship with you right now. Now, their feelings can change. It absolutely can, but you have to ease into it. And the first date, the first interaction, their feelings haven't changed that much. They're second guessing, but their feelings, their core decision has not changed that much. So when you start bringing up relationship, I guarantee you they're going to run. Okay? Number 3. Now, this is important when you've done the first 3, right? This is the third thing you need to be asking yourself and thinking about when you're spending time. Is the context romance? So yes, you're trying to downplay investment. You're trying to downplay seriousness. You're trying to downplay commitment in the beginning. But the context must always be love and romance. Meaning, going on lunch dates is never a good idea for raising attraction. Going on group dates and hanging out with friends and family all together is never a good idea for raising attraction. So whatever you're doing in these high quality interactions, ask yourself, is the context love and romance? Does it feel like a date? You don't have to say it's a date, but does it feel like a date? So when you have 2 grown adults hanging out alone at 7:30 p.m., that's romance. No matter what you say, it's like, oh, let's just hang out and grab drink. The context is romance. When you go on a dinner date at 7 p.m., the context is romance. When you cook dinner together in the evening at someone's house, the context is romance. Do not agree to anything that doesn't fall into that context. Because sometimes, again, your ex is having second thoughts, but they're still not sure about you. So they just want to kind of keep you as an option. And this is another one for the guys. Let's say your ex-girlfriend's like, okay, well, let's just grab coffee. That's not romance. Don't agree to those types of things because you're wasting your time. You're not going to raise attraction. And she's intentionally setting it up that way because it keeps that wall, that barrier up that protects her from intimacy, that protects her from you getting closer, that protects her from you getting to the prize on the other side of that wall, which is relationship. The more like friend type things that you do, there's that wall. If there's other people there, again, it prevents you from connecting with her. If it's lunch dates, you know, the mood is not romance, prevents you from connecting with her. Okay, so always ask yourself, when you set up the date or when you're trying to get together, or, you know, if they set up a date with you, is the context romance? And if it's not, do not agree to those things. To say, oh, no, I can't, or I don't, but I can do this later. You restructure and set and bring it back to love and romance. If they don't agree, do not hang out. I promise you have to hold out for what you are looking for. If you can do these things, you will get them back. Because the fact that they're texting you already shows that their interest is moving in the right direction. It's just that most people fail these tests. Let me add this. I made a video that will explain this well more from a scientific perspective on like the steps that go into building a relationship. That video is called The Best Framework for No Contact. I'm gonna leave the link in description. Watch that video. It goes more in depth as far as from a scientific research perspective as to why this is a thing, but people want the tactics, so I'm giving you this because it works, okay? So I'm gonna throw in 2 bonus things that you should be looking out for, or 2 questions, philosophies, as you hang out together, as attraction is going up. The first thing you should be looking for when you're hanging out together, spending time, and when you're having conversations, because subtly your ex is going to test you. This is the best way to think about this. Always ask yourself, am I compromising my values to make them happy? The answer should be no, or you shouldn't. So let me give you a perfect example, because I was coaching someone who was going through this. She dumped him, and he got into a place where he was needy, overly affectionate, texting, calling all the time, buying. He was doing everything. He just smothered her. That's the real truth about what was going on. But what she told him was, I feel like you are just using me for the physical. We won't get too explicit here, right? That's what she was alluding to. But in reality, when I look at the text message, I promise you, this guy was showing up in other ways. It's a subtle test because what she's really seeing is, if you think about a loving, healthy, happy relationship, physical intimacy is going to be part of the equation. And when she says, oh, there shouldn't be any physical intimacy, the honest truth is, for most people, that's going to be a non-negotiable. So again, if they ever push too far on things that should be a non-negotiable, even if they're just a non-negotiable for you, you must always stick to your boundaries. So in that case, the reality is, what he should be saying is, I'm crazy about you at that point, while they were together. I'm crazy about you, but obviously, physical intimacy is important for me. It's part of what I need from my partner, provided I'm doing X, Y, Z. But if you are at a place where you don't want physical intimacy at all, yeah, then maybe we're not compatible. Again, this is not just about physical intimacy. It could be anything. Anything that you consider a value, a boundary, that might be, you know, spending time with family. It could be anything. Whatever is important to you, what happens a lot of times when there's a loss in attraction, your ex starts to test these boundaries, right? Because they're really looking for you to be an equal. So they start to ask you to compromise. It's a subconscious. I don't want you to think this is a malicious thing. Your ex is not evil. It's just they're subconsciously testing, are you a good match for me? Because if you are, if you know your worth, if you know your value, you should never compromise on your non-negotiables for anyone, even if you care about them. So they tell you, oh, you know, I want you to cut off all your friends. And you say, okay. I'm telling you, it kills attraction. I promise you. So that's a quick bonus. We're going to take a break here, and I'm going to come back with the last sign that you should be looking for, or the last question thing you should be thinking about. We'll be right back. All right, now let's wrap this up with the last point. This is not necessarily a question, right? This is an understanding that you need to have as you're having interactions with your ex. Now, let's just go over real quick to rehash. What would the first four? One, how does this align with my purpose? Every interaction, the goal is spending quality time together. Number two is what I'm asking for relationship focus? Whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, the dates you're planning, is it relationship focus? And remember, the more you invest, the more you put into planning dates right after the breakup, the more it comes off like you're trying to lock them down and their defenses are up. Even though attraction is starting to move in the right direction, their defenses are up, and when you are overly committed too soon, they will run. Number three, is this in the right context? Meaning, is the context romance? It must always be romance. You don't need to tell them, hey, let's go on a date. You don't need to say, oh, I planned something special. As two adults doing things in the evening, generally speaking, are romance focused, and that's a good thing. You don't have to do this mind-blowing thing. You don't have to buy them a car. I had a client who did this, by the way. You don't have to do that, okay? So, is the context romance? And as long as it's romance, you're good. If it's not, if they try to invite you to group things, if they try to invite you to lunch dates, do not accept those things. And you can counter, but counter with things that are centered around romance. Romance does not mean extravagant. It just means quality time, generally speaking, in the evening. Number four, am I compromising my values? Remember, no matter what it is that they're asking you for, at this point, generally speaking, it's a test, likely, subconsciously, and they haven't done enough yet after a breakup to earn you compromising on anything, especially not your values. So a simple one, just a quick example to rehash. Let's say their expectation, even though they dumped you, is that you text them like, oh, why don't you text me all the time? Remember, they have not earned this yet, and just because they're asking for it does not mean you should agree. Never compromise on your values or your boundaries just to make them happy. It'll actually hurt attraction, because you need to be coming off as their equal or slightly more attractive or more valuable. They need to be putting in more to get more intimacy, more love, more affection, and so on from you. Now the last point, number five. So we know you shouldn't be bringing up relationship, but here's the trick. Even if they do, if your ex is the one that brings up relationship, right after no contact, in the beginning, they say, you know, I just don't know about, like, I care about you so much. I love you so much. Like, I want to be in a relationship. I'm just not sure. How do you feel? I need you to know and understand this, especially when these types of statements and how much they love you is coming up right after no contact. The truth that you need to understand, point five, is they don't want a relationship yet. They don't mean it yet. Whatever depths they're telling you how much they love you and how much they care and how like, I kind of want a relationship, but I'm not sure. right after the breakup, the truth is they don't want it yet. They just want to know that you want it. So when they hint and sprinkle, how much they love you, generally speaking, yes, at most you match where they're at, but you always want to do less. It doesn't mean anything yet. In most cases, when you give them the validation and you tell them, oh, I'm glad you said that. I'm crazy about you. I love you. I want a relationship. They instantly say, well, I need to think about it. I need more time. That's the interesting thing. So understand, if these statements of high intimacy and relationship topics are coming up right after the breakup or right after no contact, they don't mean it yet. Now you may say, are you saying I should never tell them I love them, or I never care, or, it's just too much of a game? Unfortunately, this is how attraction works. When the relationship is secure, when you're back together, of course, you can open the floodgates, don't go crazy, and let them know how much you love them. But you should always be way less than them. So if they're always telling you how much you love them and they're pushing and pushing, yes, here and there you can say, well, obviously, I care about you too. I do care, but I just want us to focus on the moment. I just want us to, let's have a good time. So you can match it. You can reciprocate if they say it first, but it should understand they don't mean it yet. They mean it when their actions start to match the words. So when they're not just telling you how much they love you, but now they're actually blowing up your phone, they're texting you every day, they're asking to see you all the time, now it's more genuine and their action backs it. That's the easiest way to know. When they're telling you all the things and some things that you really want to hear, but you look at their behavior as far as them wanting to spend quality time with you, you'll notice that it doesn't match yet. And that's because attraction is starting to creep up, but it's not yet where it needs to be. So until you've had several dates, there's more intimacy. They're pushing for more time, more affection. They're calling, they're texting you. When their action starts to match the words they're saying, then you can start to really match what they're saying, right? You can start to say that I love you back on the same frequency and so on and so forth. Remember, this takes finesse. You'll get back into a relationship, but in reality, you're not going to get back until they're ready. You don't want to pressure them. And sometimes even if they're baiting you, it's just so that they feel good. As soon as they know that you want it, they run away again. So you must be cool and calm. Allow them come to you. I hope this is helpful, okay? We don't want to be too tactic focused, but if you can execute this, all right? I get so many questions when I coach people. There's so many, what if they do this? If you can understand this, watch this video several times, you'll be able to answer. So for example, I had a client ask, oh, I bought her a car. Does that fit into the structure of the things we just talked about? And you think about it, you'll know it doesn't. You obviously should not be buying your ex a car after they broke up with you, no matter what they're telling you, okay? So watch the other video that I talked about. It's called the Best No Contact Framework. It's a really good video. It's going to go over a little bit more of the scientific aspect of this and the different stages and what to look for. But I think this big picture gets you to interact with your ex properly while still moving things forward in the right direction. If you appreciated this video, if you got value out of it, do me a favor, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I definitely do and touch on tactic videos when people need it. And a lot of times the motivation comes from conversations. When I'm talking to people, I'm like, oh, I don't think I've broken that down before. So again, if you enjoy this style video, if you got value from it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the future videos that I put out. Also, if you want to talk to me about your situation, if you have more questions, click the first link in the description and we can talk about it. I truly do appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.